I've mentioned before that during quarantine, since coronavirus started, I've gotten into gardening. We've been at home a lot, and so it's something to do. We got a new house about a year and a half ago, and so I've been playing around with gardening. And one thing that I did recently that I hadn't done since I was a kid, it's kind of one of those kid science experiments, is planting an avocado pit to grow an avocado tree. Now, the way that you do that, I don't know if you did this as a child or as an adult like I did, is you take an avocado pit after you eat the avocado, put toothpicks in it and put it at the top of a large jar or something full of water. And so I have it here. You can see it's grown a little bit now, but here's the pit. You have toothpicks so it'll sit on the top of this jar. And that's the way it grows until you can move it to soil. And part of what's fun, since it's growing in water, is that you can really see every step of it. So that's why kids do it. Now, I had tried it as a kid, but I don't think I ever even saw it get this far because I was impatient. And that's kind of a trademark of children. You might remember or know kids, and that's why in the car they're always asking, how much farther are we there yet? That's why kids' TV shows are about 10 minutes per episode. Like even a half-hour show will have 2 or 3 little vignettes so that they get through the whole story quickly. And feasibly, adults have a longer attention span, although it kind of depends on the adult. But a kid has no business actually growing an avocado tree to be a tree because it takes forever. I started this about 4 months ago, probably, when it was summer. Now, I'll talk momentarily more about the avocado tree, but first, since this season of Advent is about patience and waiting for what's to come, I want to look at the prophecy in Isaiah that's for this week that foretells Jesus' life. This is Isaiah 61, starting in verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for those who mourn in Zion, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, to display his glory. They shall build up the ancient ruins, they shall raise up the former devastations, they shall repair the ruined cities, the devastations of many generations. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrongdoing. I will faithfully give them their recompense, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. Their descendants shall be known among the nations, and their offspring among the peoples. All who see them shall acknowledge that they are a people whom the Lord has blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My whole being shall exult in my God. For he has clothed me with the garments of salvation. He has covered me with a robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decks himself with a garland, and as a bride adorns herself with jewels. For as the earth brings forth its shoots, and as a garden causes what is sown in it to spring up, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring up before all the nations. Now today is the third Sunday of Advent, which is the Sunday of joy. With this in mind, let's look again at what Isaiah tells us is coming. For those who grieve, the Lord is coming to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They will be called oaks of righteousness to display his glory. Now, the reason the author is saying these things in pairs, garland instead of ashes, gladness instead of mourning, is to show us what the people were feeling at the time. Ashes, sometimes translated to dust, mourning, a faint spirit, which is also translated as a heavy spirit, or discouragement, or despair, or sometimes translated as simply sorrow. Let's go to the last verse of the reading now, Isaiah 61:11. As a garden causes what is sown in it to spring up, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring up before all the nations. And this is where I want to dive into the garden metaphor, about the avocado tree. Now, there's something you see when you grow an avocado tree in a jar of water that you don't see when you're planting a seed in soil, but it still happens. The first thing that happens in the first week or so is that the pit splits open because the seed is inside of it. Then after about a week, something starts growing, but it doesn't grow up, it grows down. If I planted the avocado pit in soil, I would never even know that something was happening. And you can see here, this is the root. When it splits open, something comes out of the side and goes down. It's all the way at the bottom, and this is a large mason jar. Even as an adult, I don't know if I'd have the patience to wait if I planted a seed and I didn't see anything happen for 4 months and counting, because you don't see anything that's under the soil. You just see what's above it. It's been 3 months, and now instead of one root that goes, 8 inches down, 6 to 8 inches down, there's a network of roots that's growing. This just started maybe in the past week. By the time the plant sprouts upwards, which I think we're close to seeing, but I don't know, by the time it plants upwards, it raises upwards, there'll be so many roots in such a network that it won't be weak anymore. It will be alive. Isaiah is telling us what is coming, like John the Baptist in the gospel reading is telling us a Messiah is coming. Like everything we read in Advent is telling us what is coming. When Jesus is born, it's the first thing we see, but it's not the first move God has made. When we celebrate this season now, we aren't just remembering the waiting that people did in Jesus' day and leading up to it, we are waiting again. So this week, really take joy in knowing that there is already a network of roots under our feet, that God is already here and already moving. And when we see the change in the world, in our lives, it will not be new. It will be the manifestation of a merciful God who loves us and is working always.